Hi, I'm Jeremy, and I'm your host of TmWTV, where we try to answer your questions about wine right here on the internet. And today's question was sent in from Robert in the Village in Manhattan, who asks about what makes a wine iconic. Is it marketing, taste, word of mouth, etc.? So first, I have to ask myself, what does Robert mean by iconic? And I suppose that means that the wine has a certain stature, whether within the wine community or within the general public. We try to line up some wines that might fall into that category, but I would say the first category of wines that are iconic are ones that actually have many decades of producing quality wines, like from Bordeaux, in this case Cheval Blanc, highly sought after wine, not necessarily because it's rare, but because it's extraordinarily good. And the history of the winemaking at Cheval Blanc is extraordinary, and thus it commands very high prices, always in demand on a global level at auction, personal sellers, etc. It's always any of the premier crus, Grand Crus, or the first gross of Bordeaux, or in this case Saint-Emilion, Grand Cru Saint-Emilion, always going to be in demand and iconic in stature forever. Nothing will change the status of these wines. On the other hand, there are wines like the Grigich and certain wines from California which have also played a role in wine history and have become iconic. And I believe, for example, this was a wine that upended perhaps a wine like Cheval Blanc back in the famous showdown in Paris, the American wines versus French wines. And so from a sensation point of view, wines like Grigich took a place in people's minds as being important, and also they have over the course of time made very fine wine, both red and white. And then I guess you have this kind of third category of iconic wines, and this is a wine, again, the quality is absolutely there, from a producer in Umbria, Lamborghini, and I think these fall into the super Tuscan kind of a category of wines where there's a fair amount of marketing behind the wine itself, and it gets a lot of publicity, and Wine Spectator talks about it, and Robert Parker, etc., etc. So there's these other wines that just get a lot of notice through press and through marketing, and then they become in demand. I guess one of the best examples I can use is, and I'm not going to remember the name of it. I should have done a little research on it, but it just came to me. There was a wine in Wine Spectator that was given Wine of the Year. It was a Cabernet from California, I believe, and it was priced at $25, and that in part made it Wine of the Year because it was so good and it was certain cost, relatively low. And the next year it was $70. So it was all because of the Spectator article and everybody running out to try to get this $25 96-point wine, and it became iconic in its own right. Short-lived, and I wish I had it at the tip of my tongue. I should have a computer here so I can Google things as we go along. But it wasn't anything. It was probably a perfectly good wine before Robert Parker or Wine Spectator came along and made it Wine of the Year, and then it was iconic. So Robert, yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. It's demand. I mean, Yellowtail's iconic in its own way. It's the standard bearer of jug wine around the world, and so in its own right, it's iconic as well. So I think I answered your question. So iconic wines. Try them when you can. Judge for yourself. And keep sending your questions into TmWTV.